Week 2. You've already imagined what your kids might look like. You've told your best friend, I think this is it. You don't know her coffee order yet, but you already know you'd move cities for her. Everyone around you can see it, you can't, because from the inside, it doesn't feel like moving too fast. It feels like finally getting to love someone the way you always wanted to. This is what love bombing looks like when you're the one doing it, not to manipulate anyone, but because some part of you is terrified that if you don't give everything right now, there won't be a later. Most people hear love bombing and picture a calculated manipulator, someone using affection as a weapon to control a partner. And that version exists, but there's a second version that almost nobody talks about. The person who does all the same things, the intensity, the speed, the grand gestures, not out of manipulation, but out of pure, unfiltered fear. Here's what it actually looks like from the inside. You meet someone and something in you decides almost instantly that this could be it. Not because you know her yet, not because you've seen how she handles conflict or stress or a bad day, but because the possibility of her feels so good that you don't want to slow down long enough to actually find out if it's real. So you move fast. The compliments come quickly and they're intense, not just you're pretty, but I've never met anyone like you. Grand gestures show up early, before there's been enough time to earn that level of investment. An expensive gift, a surprise trip, showing up somewhere just because you couldn't stand not seeing her. Constant contact becomes the norm, checking in throughout the day, wanting updates, wanting to know everything about her life immediately, as if getting all the information at once will somehow guarantee she can't leave. Conversations about the future start showing up before you've survived a single real conflict together, before you know if you even fight well, before you know if either of you can repair after a disagreement. None of this feels excessive to you in the moment. It feels like generosity. It feels like you're just someone who loves hard, someone who isn't afraid to go all in. But underneath that story, there's usually something else running the show entirely. A fear that if you don't secure this now, prove how much you want it right now, it will slip through your fingers before it even has the chance to become real. This usually comes from somewhere specific. Maybe you grew up in a home where love felt conditional, where affection had to be earned through being impressive, agreeable, easy to manage, or endlessly needed by someone else. Maybe you watched a parent's love come and go depending on their mood, their stress, their own unresolved pain, and you learned early that attention could disappear without warning. Maybe nobody ever taught you that you were allowed to be loved just for existing, so you built a strategy instead. If I can make myself irreplaceable fast enough, she won't have time to decide I'm not worth staying for. So now, as an adult, the moment you feel even a flicker of connection with someone, your nervous system doesn't whisper, let's see how this actually unfolds over time. It screams, go all in immediately, give her everything, make her need you before she gets the chance to leave. The problem is, intensity isn't intimacy. Real intimacy is slow by nature. It's built through actually knowing someone, watching how they behave when things go wrong, learning whether they can be trusted with the parts of you that aren't polished or impressive. What you're doing instead, when you love bomb, is skipping that entire process and replacing it with sheer emotional volume, hoping the size of what you're offering will substitute for the time you haven't put in yet. And here's the part that stings. It can genuinely overwhelm the person on the receiving end, even when she likes you, even when she's not trying to hurt you by pulling back. Women often retreat from intensity, not because they don't feel something for you, but because the pace itself starts to feel like pressure instead of connection. She can sense that something is being asked of her that she hasn't had time to earn or understand yet, and that creates its own kind of anxiety, even in someone who wanted to like you. Here's the harder truth underneath all of this. If she pulls away from your intensity, it can feel like proof that you weren't enough, that you didn't try hard enough, that next time you'll just have to give more, move faster, prove yourself even harder. But that reaction is exactly backward. The issue was never that you didn't give enough. It's that you gave everything before there was anywhere for it to actually land. Think about what that means practically. A relationship is like a container that gets built slowly, conversation by conversation, shared experience by shared experience. When you pour everything in before the container exists, it doesn't create more connection, it just overflows, and she's left standing in the mess of something that moved faster than trust could ever catch up to. The people who eventually break this pattern don't do it by loving less, and they don't do it by becoming cold or guarded or strategic. They do it by learning to pace what they give to match what's actually been built so far, not what they're hoping will eventually be built. They learn, often slowly and uncomfortably, that holding a little back at the beginning isn't withholding love. It's simply giving the relationship time to become real before pouring everything you have into it. This is uncomfortable to practice, especially if your nervous system equates slowness with danger. It will feel at first like you're not doing enough, like restraint is somehow a betrayal of how much you actually care. But that discomfort isn't a warning sign telling you something is wrong. It's just what patience feels like to a person who was never given the chance to trust that love could arrive gradually and still be real. If this sounds like you, it doesn't mean you're manipulative, and it doesn't mean you're dishonest about your feelings. It usually means you loved in an environment where slow and steady never felt safe enough to trust, so you built a different strategy just to survive it. That intensity kept you safe once. It doesn't have to run every relationship you're in now. If you've noticed this pattern in yourself, you're not the only one. This channel breaks down the psychology behind why we love, attach, and connect the way we do. New videos every week. Subscribe for more on the psychology of relationships and attachment.